don't think I do it good.
Arsenal started like house on fire. Signing number 2 for this new era. It's Judgment Day, people. Yeah! What did your boy tell you? It was never in doubt. Never in doubt. Don't believe in any luck, I believe I'm self-made, yeah. And then, people, welcome back to the Just Joe Football Show. I hope you are all doing well. Please do smash a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, get your comments in, and of course, hit that notification bell. We will be chatting the Andrea Radrizzani years tonight, from initially his inception as custodian of this football club up until, well, most recent times. I think it's only fair that we do this. It's almost like Radrizzani's on trial a little bit. We're going to give a fair hearing, both positives and negatives. Then towards the end of the video, I'm going to stick a poll in the chat. I'm going to obviously ask the folks on the panel as well. We will be joined by Joe and Luke a little bit later on as well. I know people sometimes don't dig these long form videos, but listen, it is going to be a long one, okay? I can't, well, I'll apologize for that right now. It's going to be movie, all right? It's going to be the latest Avengers, and I'm going to be Ant-Man, something like that. Anyway, I think I give Ant-Man vibes. But listen, before we do get into it, as is always the case, please make sure that you do follow Andrea on Twitter, okay? Andrea YouTube channel, I reckon's pending. Who's got Rocco at Leeds, that, okay? Make sure you check out his podcast, great podcast. I believe there's an interview on there with someone today. I didn't have time to check it out, but it popped up on my feed. I will do. Who's that with, Rocco? Rocco, sorry.
Yeah, that's Robert Endicott.
Right.
So he's the author of the new Bielsa book, Marcelo on Together. So yeah, worth half an hour of your time, I reckon. He's a good bloke, and it's an amazing book.
The second best Bielsa book behind your own, of course, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, soon to be third when my next one comes out.
I'm still waiting for it to go here to replace Phil Hayes, mate. I need that book of yours. So
nice.
Yeah. We need it there. We've got Joe with us as well. Joe, of course, Leeds View. Make sure you check him out. If you are watching this and you do like Joe more, yeah, that's totally fine. It's totally fine. It didn't rattle me. It didn't rattle me one bit. If you like him more, that's totally fine. Okay. And of course, we've got Max at Leeds lately, who we haven't seen for quite some time. Max, I hope you're doing well. And then a late arrival. He's Luke. Yeah. Wow, we've literally got a full house. Let me just dial that back a bit. I think that's a little bit better. So you've got everyone. Everyone. Oh, it's all right, mate. Don't worry about it. Happy Father's Day to everyone as well. I hope you've had a good days for those that are that are fathers out here. Joe, I did see you post a little picture or some pictures like an ode towards your father. And I did notice you used to have some right little beardage going on, mate. I was like, who's this guy? What happened to that, mate? When are you bringing it back?
Had a big black beard, and at one point also had a big black head of hair as well, but they're long gone.
Brilliant. Right, okay. So today's video, we're going to go right from the start. To be honest, I shared my research with Andrea earlier on. I've gone hard, all right? There's loads in there. If I have forgot out, then please bring it to the fore.
The commission.
Yeah, bring it. But Radrizzani's on trial today. Was he a success or wasn't he? I don't know. Right, okay. I think while I was doing this research, I read a few articles, and I think Phil here sort of put it right in one of his pieces on The Athletic, and he spoke about Radrizzani's tenure, and he said in that piece he might dwell forever on how the legacy he wanted to leave behind crashed and burned, how a team who became the envy of others, blessed with a coach whose football was to die for, reverted to type and retreated into a web of incompetence. And I think that's perfectly put. But listen, all the way back to January of 2017, Radrizzani invested a 50% stake
of Leeds United, making him co-owner of the football club with, of course, Mr. Massimo Cellino. I think the story goes he had a conversation with Kenny Dalglish over some dinner, and Kenny Dalglish sort of sold Leeds United as the last, real sleeping giant, if you want, and, get that right, and you're on to a win. He had interest in a number of football clubs, I believe, up to that point, and opted for Leeds United, and obviously made that a permanent acquisition in May of 17. Bought Massimo out, 100% buyout, and he took full ownership of the football club. We'll start there, folks. Obviously, the Massimo Cellino era was insane, right? It was absolutely insane. I remember when he wouldn't let Sky cameras in, we had the Time to Go Massimo, sort of like projected onto the East End. It was a crazy time. Massimo Cellino was a crazy guy. But initially, Luke, I'll come to you, mate, being later. What were your initial thoughts? Obviously, Radrizzani came in. Was it just a case of, yes, we have someone new and we're rid of that mad guy?
Yeah, I think so, mate. I think it was just somebody to steady the ship further. We'd had some poor owners in the League One and Championship days, and yeah, it was just a bit of a lifeline, I suppose. Somebody who had a good commercial sense. Obviously, made his money from literally pretty much nothing. He was very commercially aware in terms, which obviously potentially came back to bite him on the arse a few times as well. We'll probably come on to that, but yeah, it was. I think it was just a case of let's get moving, let's get going, and let's actually, not just be a mid-table Championship side that we'd been for all those years. I think it was the first glimmer of hope of somebody with a few quid that had owned us for a while. Before that, I think we were all excited about £1 million signing Luke Murphy. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then he comes in and he starts spending a little bit of money. We did all right, man. To be fair, Well, come on. Well, I don't want to sort of jump the gun.
Yeah, of course.
Too far forward,
do
you know what I mean? I think I was rightly optimistic, I would probably say.
Yeah. No, I think does everyone agree with that sentiment? Obviously, getting rid of Massimo Cellino and Radrizzani coming in, who seemed to have a little bit about him at the time. Rocco, you seem to have got like a little wry grin. Have you got something you want to add?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Cellino was a madman, no doubt about it. But in that last season, he put his balls on the line. Like he'd promised us a refund if we didn't get in the playoffs. He appointed Gary Monk, very, very sensible appointment that worked brilliantly. Monk completely turned the team around. He gave us, something to be proud of, to be honest. We had a good squad by then. We were in the playoffs when Radrizzani came in January. I think Cellino at that point, I don't want to sound like I'm defending Cellino too much. It speaks for himself. He's a nut job, and he would have. Something would have happened. The next crazy thing was probably just around the corner. But at that point, I was thinking he'd sort of learnt his lesson, and he was doing the right things, and we were doing really well when Radrizzani came in. So, I don't know. I just wanted to really chime in with that because Radrizzani wasn't starting from scratch. Cellino had built a decent squad there. There's a lot of our best players in the Championship team were Cellino there were Cellino additions.
No, I think that's very fair to add because after the initial acquisition by Radrizzani of 100%, it was 2 days later that Monk resigned as head coach of Leeds United. 1 day before Radrizzani was set to activate a 1-year extension deal, Radrizzani said at the time that Monk's decision to quit the club had been a bit of a shock. Do we now look back and maybe question that, or was it just a case of Monk was a snake and he got lured by Middlesbrough and they had a load of cash to spend? If you remember, they bought like Britt Sombalonga for like 18 million and stuff at the time, didn't they? So do we think it really was a shock, or did Radrizzani want to move him on at that time, do we think? Has anyone got anything to say?
No, for me, it was a shock because he had done a good season. He had, like Rocco said, the last season with Cellino, he started to invest a little bit more, and really, in my view, he wanted to invest in order to, because he knew that at the end of the season he was going to sell to Radrizzani, so the value of the club, of course, rose in that season. And if you look back at the time, Middlesbrough had just been relegated from the Premier League, if I remember correctly, because 2016, 2017, I think they were in the Premier League. So maybe the change of league of ownership, between Cellino and Radrizzani was a bit of a uncertainty of who was going to be the owner at the time. So Monk had an opportunity and decided to take the opportunity back. He, of course, soured his relationship with the Leeds fan because he was really liked at the time. Then when he came back with Birmingham City, if you remember, the South Stand, of course, chanted a lot against him. So yeah, for me, it was the first shock of his ownership, but it was not his fault because it was a choice.
Andrea, from your perspective, obviously going from Cellino to Radrizzani as an Italian and being over there, what was it like for you? Because I know we've spoken about it before. It's like you feel that we get all the crazy Italian owners. You know?
Well, Cellino was really crazy, and at the time I remember I was excited because Radrizzani, of course, had started with a completely different approach from Cellino when he acquired the club. He reacquired, of course, like we're gonna talk about that later. He made his first step were really good towards the fans. He made promises and he fulfilled that promises. In Cellino, when there were protests against him, sort of responded very hardly and harsh on the fans. And Radrizzani started very slowly without making promises in terms of football goals, on the short term. So I really like how he moved at the beginning, but it was a bit of fresh air compared to Cellino. So I was really excited. At the beginning, then it all changed later.
I think we can all agree with that. Obviously, one of his first things Radrizzani did was appoint Victor Orta as director of football. And I want you to cast your minds back now. I don't want you to know Victor Orta now. You know what I mean? Try to be objective with it. But he appointed Victor Orta as director of football, even Bravo as director of strategy, whatever that means, and Angus Kinnear came in as chief executive. And their first head coach appointment was Apoel Nicosia, previous manager, of course, Thomas Christensen. The strap line that Radrizzani told us at the time was, I wanted to appoint someone who can help us create a winning culture at the club and unite everyone connected with Leeds United, from the players to the supporters. Max, do you feel that first appointment of Christensen went well? I mean, I remember it before Christmas. We were top of the league. We were flying for a period of time.
Yeah, but I remember at the time when he was first appointed, everyone was going, who? And then somebody went, oh, he's from the Cypriot League. And he
once managed in the Champions League as well. It was like, oh, we got a Champions League manager.
So he did play for Barcelona, though, as well. Like, he wasn't...
Fair.
But yeah, in terms of actual management, though, experience and stuff, you kind of think, all right, a new owner's come in. Really, what you should be doing is getting somebody who's proven. And if you're talking all these big goals about getting back up to the Premier League and stuff, you need to have... You kind of put your money where your mouth is. If you want one of the best managers in the Championship to get you up, you have to pay for it. Whereas we sort of just went completely left field, got Christensen in, and obviously he did well for half a season, but we don't deal in half seasons, do we? We deal in full seasons. So it all sort of fell apart in the end. But it's when I think about it, it's actually quite sort of... it's like a microcosm of everything they did over the whole time there, apart from Bielsa, was trying to pluck players and managers and stuff from obscurity and expecting them to come in and do amazing things. And it didn't work out, and it's kind of been the story of everything except for Marcelo Bielsa,
which we will touch on a little bit later on. To be fair to Rads, as I say, we don't want to just look at this from negative standpoint that a lot of us might feel now. But one of the things he did was bring back Leeds United ladies. which I think's very, very good, because obviously Massimo Cellino decided to stop funding that back in 2014. Massimo Cellino stopped funding a lot. If you remember, I think there was like spores on the swimming pool. He was making them bring in packed lunches, and he once made them pasta. If you remember, he made them all pasta and was like, I made it the pasta, you know. Sorry, I won't do the Italian voice. I don't know why I did. Just
PR disaster, that. Absolutely.
Yes, it was, wasn't it? It was bad, but I think one of the positive things was obviously Radrizzani bringing the Leeds United ladies definitely back under the umbrella. And then on the 28th of June 2017, he purchased Ellen Road. Obviously, that we find out now later on down the line, there's been a little bit of madness with that. But at the time, you know, it became property of Leeds United again for the first time since 2004. So, you know, in terms of his early days and getting the fans back on side, he definitely did that, Joe, right? Like coming in, getting the ladies back on. So from a PR perspective, it all looked great for us fans. We're like, oh, we own Ellen Road again. The Leeds United ladies, about everything's going swimmingly, right?
I thought he was great. Genuinely, first season, thought this is great. We've got an Italian businessman who has business savvy, who clearly is putting together the club behind the scenes before he then goes to work on whatever on the pitch. Christensen coming in as a coach, I thought it's an interesting one. Yeah, he's not got a managerial pedigree, but everyone's looking for the next big coach before they become the next big coach. And can you get the next young up-and-coming coach to your club? If you look at Christensen, he had a Danish-born Spanish international who managed to play for Spain on the back of his performances playing for Barcelona, made a career for himself over there. And it was an excellent footballer, came across super professional when you listen to him. The flip side of that is that you get some interesting sliding door moments. Like if Christensen had stayed, what would have happened to Matthias Klick? Because he turfed him out to Utrecht after one game, didn't like him. What would have happened to a Leeds team without Matthias Klick in it when Bielsa did take it over, considering how important he became? So there was nothing at the start that had any flags. I think it was about 6 to 8 months into Victor Orta being brought in that the Orta out stuff started, and there was a pretty heavy Twitter movement to get rid of Victor Orta pretty early on within the first year before Bielsa came in, which then surfaced up again. But he was the question mark when we started to see the situation coming out of Middlesbrough, and we started hearing things about him walking to dressing rooms in Middlesbrough and telling managers what to do, and you started hearing that stuff. You're like, this isn't probably the smartest of appointments here right now to get yourself off the ground. But there was clearly a relationship there. Victor was very good at winning people over. You hear lots of people talk about having conversations with Orta and then liking him and vice versa. So I mean, from that perspective, you look at the start of it, you think, yeah, this is a sensible guy coming in with sensible stuff. He seems to have a bit of money about him, probably not mega bucks, but smart money. Should be fine. And that was, first year, that's exactly where my head was at. I thought this is and the way I kind of looked at it was Ridsdale had collapsed the club, Bates had stripped the club, Cellino had messed with the club, and then Radrizzani came in. You went, are we in a better place now than we were before he took us over? Already we are. Right now, we already are in a
GFH in there somewhere as well.
GFH, forgot all about GFH. How could you forget GFH?
The only skinned Arabs. That's Leeds United all over to get the
Isn't that the curse, though, isn't it? The only Gulf bank with no money.
That was a mad story about the guy who was chief executive, wasn't it?
There was so much
David Hay. He ended up in prison. Didn't he in prison?
Invited over. Well, David Hay started another company called Sports Capital to buy Leeds from GFH, and he'd gotten involved with a lot of local businessmen. And GFH invited him to Dubai to talk. And when he landed in the airport, they had him arrested and put in prison for being homosexual. And you're like, this is mental what's going on. And he was in prison for a while over there. He went through an awful time. How did I forget about GFH? But I mean, every owner was slightly better than the previous one. And then you got to Rads and you thought, this is sensible, this is smart. And didn't see where it went from where it was when he took it over.
Well, it's funny because the next bit started to go a little bit sus, right? It started to go a little bit suspect because January 18, Radrizzani announced an official partnership with Aspire Academy over in Qatar. Aspire at the time owned Spanish team Cultural Leones. And it obviously then we've seen players like Ideguchi and Usain Boy join on loan as part of the unique partnership. them two players, I mean, Usain Boy only was off the books, I think, last season at some point, right?
Yeah,
he was
exactly.
out, like, taking videos with Paul Pogba and stuff, picking up a wage packet. And Heckingbottom, I mean, where did he end up? I think he was a Japan international when we picked him up, and then just dropped off, right?
He signed for Celtic up to 2 years ago. He did Celtic for the last 2 years, but the same thing happened. Missed out on the World Cup with Japan because he was at Leeds and wasn't playing. Then gets a transfer back to Japan, starts playing again regularly with Japanese national team. Then gets a transfer to Celtic, who don't play him for 2 years and misses out on another World Cup with Japan. I really felt sorry for Heckingbottom because he was a tidy little footballer. He was a defensive midfielder, but he was a tidy one, but just never really worked for him in the UK at all.
Yeah, and Bowie was considered in Italy. Bowie was considered when he was at Juve, when Juve got him, and he went to Brescia, was considered by the press like the new Pirlo.
Do you want to hear a scary fact about Boy? Usain Boy is
the next big thing. It was under.
Now.
Yeah, exactly, and it was under. His agent was Mino Raiola, so he had a lot of hype at the time. He was considered the new Pirlo.
Well, it's quite interesting here. Tommy said Boy was signed as a favour for Mino Raiola. Well, you just never know, do you? You just never know.
Yeah.
He'd been at Juventus, Brescia, Hamburg, Panathinaikos, Palermo. These are all on loan from Juventus.
Exactly.
And then he came to Leeds in 2017. And Wikipedia says the 2017 to 2021 Leeds United, no games, no appearances. He had 2 appearances at Lyonnais in a year. And then he went to PEC Zwolle on loan from us again.
Zwolle, Eredivisie.
Played 18 games and is now at Al Kharatiat. But he's...
Qatar. And we go back to Qatar, actually.
Yeah. he was supposed to be this up-and-coming wonder kid, young... teenage wonder kid, and you go, he's 30 years of age now. What happened?
Would he have got the promotion bonuses and stuff?
I don't know. Probably
we had to play.
Probably knowing our lot. Do you know what I mean?
He wouldn't have been. I don't think he was even registered as a squad player, was he? For a lot of those seasons, we couldn't have used him because we didn't even register him. He just sort of was paid by the club, and so
he never turned up for pre-season each year. They never brought him back. He never came back to the club.
The funny thing is, if you look at his Wikipedia page, he has a picture with a Juve shirt. He never appeared for Juve, so the picture was taken on vacation.
Clearly not a Juventus dressing room behind him. Looks like a Sunday league.
Yeah, exactly.
Brilliant. That's class. That same month, folks, obviously, we got the link with the Aspire Academy. Initially, you might think, we've got a kid here who's come from Juve. We've got a Japan international. This looks good. We then introduced the Gaviscon badge. If you remember, we got that infamous Gaviscon badge that would have been worn during the 18-19 season, depicting the Leeds United salute. However, the design of the new badge attracted criticism from a vast number of fans, resulting in an online petition of over 77,000 signatures against the design's introduction. And he decided to reopen the consultation process. I don't even remember the original consultation process.
I still genuinely believe this was one big PR stunt.
Yeah,
it was a huge PR stunt. It was never going to be the badge.
You reckon?
Never in a million years.
For what purpose, Luke? What purpose?
Any social, any visibility, any media, just to put something out there. Any news is good news, sort of thing. There's no such thing as bad PR that they say. So it's. Why would you go on Love Island if you were a good-looking girl? Like, they do it, don't they, for the PR? Like, why would you do it? So he's put that out there, absolutely, make a load of noise, get people biting. I think so anyway. That's my take. Could be absolutely wrong, but I don't actually believe he thought that was ever a good idea. I don't think anybody did.
This is Radrizzani you're speaking about. This is Radrizzani.
No, completely, I agree.
A lot of the things he'd said about it though made sense. Like, he said that they wanted to have a badge where Leeds United was prominently featured on it, where it was people knew, not LUFC, that globally, if you looked at the brand, you would see Leeds and you would know it was Leeds, which didn't need to happen. And then the salute was supposed to be something that connected the club to the fans. And you're like, you've missed the point there a little bit, haven't you? Like
it's like somebody's put somebody who doesn't know anything about football and they've given them like a cheat sheet of everything you should know about Leeds United. And then they've been told to make a football badge.
Yeah.
Like, it's as if they don't know what football badges look like. Because yes, if you're creating a brand logo for something else, that's not the most horrendous thing in the world. Like it literally looks like Gaviscon.
It's a Pro Evolution Soccer badge.
It is, yeah.
That's what it is.
Exactly.
You know,
that
popped up on Adobe as well. Adobe have that as a stock file. So there was, I remember at the time when that came out, somebody found that image without the background and without Leeds United, just this bit, on an Adobe stock file in silver, and we're sharing it, going, "This isn't a proper badge. No one's designed this. It's a stock file."
Yeah, but one thing
I was.
Go on, Rock.
I was like Luke. I was convinced that it was a PR stunt, and I thought he was trying to show potential investors the size of the club. You know, do this PR stunt and look at all these interactions. But I don't think it was now. You know, like Kinnear spoke about it. You know, as recently as last summer. I don't think those guys would own something so utterly embarrassing if it was a PR stunt. I think they'd have told us about it, but maybe not. But yeah, I mean, it was just so bad. It was almost unbelievable. That's why I couldn't believe it.
Didn't Kinnear have a track record with this though, didn't he? Like when he was at Arsenal, he changed Arsenal's badge to the current one that they've got. He simplified it, took all the backgrounds off and just left it as the canon. And then when he went to West Ham, he did the exact same thing with the West Ham badge. He took all the stuff off of it, cleaned it up, and just left it with the two hammers and West Ham. And if you look at the way the West Ham United is written on that badge and the way Arsenal is written on their badge, and then look at the Leeds badge of Leeds United, there are similarities between the three. There is a clear what they're trying to do.
Have just been a nice Yorkshire rose with a circle around it saying Leeds United 1990. That would have been.
Do you know what? Why I'm a little bit skeptical about it all? I'll tell you why. Because they said they consulted. I forget what the amount of fans were. Was it?
Yeah, they did about that.
It was there was a questionnaire that went out, but it was no reference to any sort of badge or anything like that.
I think it was, were you happy with the current crest, and would you look? You know, that was the question. And people, I think a lot of people kind of were like, yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, but was they consulted? What are the people they consulted?
Does anybody know anybody who was actually consulted about it?
No, we should tweet it out. That's why I'm so skeptical between us and see if we can find any single person that was actually consulted.
You'd get one dickhead, Max, who said, "Yeah, I was at the head of the table while we consulted it." You know,
I designed it myself personally.
Maybe someone in the chat was consulted. We don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, what I was going to say before is that the only thing is that you have to give them credit for that they have listened. A lot of owners think that they are above the little man, above the normal people, and maybe Radrizzani does think that a little bit. They all have an ego. If you've got that much money, you've got a bit of an ego. But I do think other owners, like Ken Bates, for example, would not have backed down to pressure whatsoever just because he would be stubborn as possible because he thinks he knows best. Whereas they backed down with that, and I believe the fans made them back down with Alfred Schroeder as well in more recent times. So I do think there is a little bit of humility from them, and they sometimes are happy.
Mate, it wasn't even Leeds fans though. We were getting. I remember skits on bloody Soccer AM and all sorts. They were all sat round the room on this.
That's why I think it wasn't a PR stunt, because to me. Sometimes there is bad PR because everybody's laughing at our club and think, remember when Leeds used to be good? They're absolutely shy now, and look at what they've just done with the badge. It's embarrassing. You can go viral for the wrong reasons, I feel.
Yeah, it was a really bad decision. They said they'd reopen the consultation process. Obviously, we've still got the same badge, so they stayed away from that.
I don't like the fact we're still talking about it today. Shows that it was a PR stunt. I still believe that to this day.
Oh, I'm not so sure, mate. I'm not so sure, but
there were some great concept badges done up. And if you think if Leeds were going to change,
there was
brilliant concept badge.
I'd love to go back to a traditional circular badge with a nice Yorkshire rose in the middle or something of that sort. Like, because it's still just classic Leeds and maybe a little bit more of a modernisation of that. And I'd love I really don't like our current crest. I do agree that it's the LUFC and not actually saying Leeds United or whatever.
Just say hey Leeds match,
especially for a new era.
That's true.
No, but if you look
at the back of the new shirt has the old badge on it, doesn't it? The one that's coming out has the old peacock badge on the back of it, on the top of the collar.
Allegedly,
sorry.
If you look at Swansea, they have reverted the decision. They have changed again their badge to the old one now. So if we were to change the badge, I will like Max said, revert to something. Connected to the badge of the 90s, the one where we won the last first division ever.
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah.
For sure. Listen, we'll move on. On the 6th of February 2018, Radrizzani appointed Barnsley manager Paul Heckingbottom as the new head coach of Leeds United on an 18-month contract to replace Thomas Christensen. Again, I remember actually doing a video on his appointment for All Leeds TV. My very, very first appearance, I was interviewed outside the ground by Barney. That's how long it was. Barney was on All Leeds TV at the time. I think I'd seen a tweet and I was like, oh, I'm well up for that. I went down and we was outside the Billy Bremner statue and they asked me about Paul Heckingbottom. And I remember saying, like, good appointment.
You should have got a clip up for us to watch.
Bloody hell, mate.
Be searching for it later.
Yeah, I was overweight as well then at that point. I remember, yeah. It's not a great look. Anyway, I remember saying it was a good appointment because he brought John Stones through, etc. You know, these young players that he'd managed at the time. What was initial thoughts around the houses, folks? Obviously, Christensen sacked, then came in Paul Heckingbottom, who, by the way, next season will be a Premier League manager, and we're in the Championship. But yeah, thoughts? Was it he'd done really well with Barnsley guy too soon? Was it? Yeah, he did do well with Barnsley. Luke.
He did really, really well with Barnsley. I was excited by it. You know, I've got a lot of friends. I live that part of Wakefield where you're either Leeds or Barnsley, for some reason you once won a fish at a fair and you're a Scum fan or something like that. But yeah, the majority are either Barnsley or Leeds where we live, and they were absolutely wounded about moving, especially to us as well, because nobody will admit it, nobody else from Yorkshire will admit it, but we're the big boys of Yorkshire. We are. Everybody wants to be Leeds United. Everybody hates us. So to lose your manager who he'd been punching well above the weight at Barnsley in that league at the time. And did they just miss out on playoffs that season?
Yeah, they were very hard to play against every time, Barnsley, under him.
And I think they beat us twice that season as well, didn't they? The season, or the just beat us when we signed him. So yeah, absolutely good. I was excited by it, and yeah, I think just to sort of paraphrase what you said there, Joe, probably the right man at the wrong time.
Yeah. Yeah, it almost feels like that. I thought he was, he was all right, I guess. But then obviously the season ended poorly, etc. And obviously it was always gonna move on. That season as well, folks, we were battered 3-0 by Wolves. And then Radrizzani started his Twitter posts. Okay, so this is probably when it starts to go a little bit wild for Radrizzani, and he starts using Twitter for the wrong reasons. He questioned the legality and fairness of the competition. He made public his decision to seek clarity from the Football League regarding league leaders Wolverhampton Wanderers, to seek clarification of the link with Wolves and super agent Jorge Mendes. Folks, just on this, I just, the reason I left that in there, I know it's maybe not super relevant, but I almost feel like, obviously the Twitter stuff starts, but not only that, like I remember last season when Everton had the thing and Leeds United were all over putting in claims about, on Everton, and then we stayed up and no one was asked anymore. Do you know what I mean? I know us fans are not asked, like it is what it is, but Rocco, you're nodding along there. Do you know what I mean? It almost feels like a little bit of bitterness from Radrizzani, like they're cheating,
Yeah, this is the thing with Radrizzani, and I can't help but getting personal with it, to be honest, because I do feel like it's a personality trait of his that has affected a lot of the decisions that have gone wrong. And the Wolves thing, I mean, what a baby, complaining like that. I don't even think the match was over and he was tweeting about it.
It says there before the match was finished.
You need a leader at the club needs to have better caliber than that to be, putting out babyish tweets like that. It is pathetic. And then, like you said, the Everton thing, I mean, it was ridiculous at the time. And then to again talk about doing Everton again this season, having dropped it last season, it again, beyond embarrassing.
It comes across as desperate as well.
Yeah.
It makes the club. That
really annoys me. And I was going to just.
Yeah, it's not how Leeds reads reason.
No, go on, Rocco. What were you saying? Sorry, I think we lost you a bit there.
Sorry, mate. Yeah, no, I was just going to go on to say that, and I don't think you'll probably mention it because it's something and nothing, but it really, again, shone a light on Radrizzani and his personality when in the centenary celebrations, they put a plaque on the building where Leeds United was founded in 1919. And he put his name on that plaque. He put, and at this point on this day, Leeds owner Andrea Radrizzani did honoured the team. Like it was ridiculous. I remember thinking, why is his name on that? Like it's just pure arrogance. And like it's just, I don't know. It's those sorts of personality traits and those sorts of little actions that sort of give away, I think, a lot of what brought us down in the end. Because clearly he wanted to be the star. He wanted to be the hero. And yeah, we'll get on to Bielsa, of course. But talking about his personality, and like I say, I feel I'm getting personal about it, but I feel like that affected the decision. So how can you not know?
No, I agree with you, and we'll touch on it a little bit later on. But on the Take Us Home documentary, Radrizzani appeared in every single episode, so it sort of gives you, and they actually put that, so it sort of coincides with what you're saying there, Rocco. In a sense, is like this is all about me. Do you know what I mean? And sometimes you can't be like that. Look, Radrizzani in March of 18 announced that Leeds United would go on a post-season tour of Myanmar to play 2 friendlies over there. It drew national criticism from an MP, from Amnesty International, due to the political situation in the country. Radrizzani defended the choice of location, saying this is about people, not governments. We find out later on that 11 Sports, which was Radrizzani's company, had secured broadcasting rights to Myanmar's National League. So we all know why we went out there. He did say at the time to BBC as well, if I'm honest with myself and I'm honest to everyone, that we are not doing anything bad. The majority of Leeds United fans understand that and are supportive of the project. A few make noises on Twitter, cannot change the majority of those who are silent. Look, and just some context on it, which Andrea gave me. Since August 2017, nearly 700,000 people of the Muslim minority have fled the country. The UN had defined the operations in the state as basically textbook ethnic cleansing that was going down. And we took our football club there, and basically he could dress it up all he likes, Andrea, but it literally was because they had secured rights to that league, surely.
Yeah, surely. And that really makes me angry because it's a stain on our club. We should have never gone back to the country. Of course, the people, not the government, are good people, the people living their daily lives down there. But there was a minority that was persecuted by the government, the military junta. It was like the same thing when they played the FIFA World Cup in 1978 in Argentina, when the military junta of Argentina was of course kidnapping people, the desaparecidos, and they were of course having an harsh hand, on a part of their population. So we should have never gone there. We went there like it was like going to South Africa when apartheid was in place. Yeah, it's not right. It's a stain. It's a disgrace, a shame to our club. That one. I'm really strong on this because I really care about those political situations, and where people are prosecuted, you can't go there and play football. You can't go there. Of course, it was business, like you said, Joe. It was business because, of course, there was a deal after that in place. We were even sponsored our tour by a local bank, so of course there were connections in the country. But yeah, I'm really sorry, disappointed that post-season tour happened, because it's a stain on the history of our club that will remain, unfortunately.
Yeah, and it's sort of, we've got the Aspire Academy over in Qatar. We've got the Myanmar stuff, and it does seem at times there was a lot of shady dealings. Could you say with Andrea, things going on behind the scenes, and it wasn't a good look for any football club to be getting called out by Amnesty International, etc. It's just not a good look. That's why for me, and again, I know Luke said that the badge was PR. That's why when I see things like that, I'm like, nah, this guy just at times is a bit clueless. But that again is just my opinion.
I think. Sorry, Joe, just to chime in. I think the reason you can segregate the two is one was simply for financial gain. The Myanmar thing, and that's probably why I think I lean towards the Badgegate being more sort of, PR roulette and hoping that it's going to create a lot of traffic, whether that be online traffic or generally. But yeah, no, I wouldn't ever say that. I wouldn't ever suggest that the Myanmar thing was
Oh no, I didn't
at all.
Yeah, sorry, no, I didn't mean you were saying it like that. I just meant just because of decisions like this, I can't then give him credit to thinking. But that again, I wasn't saying you were saying that at all, mate. No, definitely not. Look, that like Andrea said, it was a bad time at the time. I think didn't Heckingbottom take us, right? Didn't Heckingbottom go and then was booted,
were they jumping
obviously
in rivers and that? Were they? Was it that season when they were going?
Oh, that was Cellino's season.
No, that was
wasn't it? Yeah.
That was Hockaday, weren't it? When we had Michael Brown and Paul Green. And
one of
all
the teams
that.
we were supposed to play never showed up, and we ended up playing an inter-squad game between a local side and then going.
Did we win like 19-0 or something like that? I think. I swear it was something mad. Look, Radrizzani's first full season as sole owner, 2017-2018, having been top of the league for the first quarter of the season, obviously under TC, and dropping to fifth at the halfway point. Leeds missed out on playoffs completely after a disappointing run of form in the second half of the season, finishing 13th in the table. It's almost like hello darkness, my old friend, innit? Like that was our home for a long period of time in the Championship. May of 18, Radrizzani and Leeds United announced that the 49ers Enterprises had bought shares in the club to become a minority investor. I genuinely forgot it was that long ago, to be honest. 2018, we're now in 2023 and they're just taking full charge. So, maybe the grass isn't always greener, but that's for another day because they have been in situ for a very, very long time, even if just minority. So I understand those that have reservations. 1st of June, Paul Heckingbottom sacked, having been at the club for just 4 months. And then, of course, God came in, right? Argentinian manager Marcelo Bielsa was named as the club's new head coach. Oh, we've lost Luke. On the 15th of June, signing a 2-year contract with the option of a third after 2 weeks of negotiations with the club. And in doing so, he became the highest paid manager in Leeds United's history. So, again, this has to go in the positive column because for him to look, not only did he go and get Bielsa, but he also made him the highest paid manager in our history. And some might have known about Bielsa before, others didn't. But I think we can all be in agreement now. For me, it was so exciting getting this guy in charge. Just everything, even if I didn't know loads about him, everyone was speaking about him, Bielsa this, Bielsa that. And it was just oh my God, like, I can't believe that we've got this guy in charge. We'll go around the houses. Joe, I'll come to you first. We'll work around that way. Just your initial thoughts on the acquisition of Bielsa at the time.
It was massive. It was massive. And I was kind of I was in support of Heckingbottom at the time. I kind of was along the lines of, you got to give this guy some time. There's clearly a good coach in here, but give him some time. They didn't want the time. So they went off and got Marcelo Bielsa. I remember the conversation that was happening at the time. I remember the interviews because Brads was everywhere at that stage. And some of the stuff was around after they'd gone to Christensen, then they had Heckingbottom. I think there was a conversation where Andrea had said to Victor, if you could pick somebody, who would it be? And Victor had said, Bielsa, but you won't get him. And then Rad said, why not? I go, money's too high, divisions, everything else, right? I've been going through my coaching badges at the stage, and I was the amount of different Marcelo Bielsa quotes that are used in FAI or were used in the FAI in Ireland in their coaching manuals around different stuff was incredible. I had all these screenshots on my OneDrive as well, just kind of all there for stuff to have to talk to people about in the future. And when they went and actually got him, that was massive because we were all talking about the time going, there's no, like, they're talking to him. Yeah, fair enough. He's a polite guy. He's, indulging him a little bit here, but there's no There's no way he's going to come to Leeds. Even with money, he's not going to come to Leeds. So when they announced that it had been done and they were back and, we're just waiting on contracts to be signed, but it's done. It was really, really exciting. But I don't think it was as even at that point, as excited as I was to be getting this guy, there was still the knowledge of where we've come from. And, you still have to have some level of a decent squad for this guy to coach. Little did I know at that point that he could coach any team up to being better. But when we saw the first game of the season against Stoke, and I remember the run up to the Stoke game as well. Even in one. So it was I'll need to try and thought now. Yeah, so when they did bring him in, we thought this is gonna be great, this will be brilliant. But the run up to the game, Gary Rowett was in charge of Stoke from right, if I think I'm correct.
Yeah.
And he had done the press release for the start of the new championship season. Each team had sent one player, and Calvin Phillips had gone there. And they did this weird lineup, but they're on their jerseys in the studio. And I think he was sitting behind Calvin, and he kind of leaned over, and they asked at the start of the season, they're playing Bielsa's Leeds the first day of the season. And I think Rowett had said something like, "We're favourites, we'll win that game."
Yeah. Has he not seen the bookies odds?
I've
obviously not seen the odds.
They were favourites
to
get back to the Premier League.
I don't think any of us thought we would see that Leeds team put in the performance they put in against Stoke that day and absolutely smash what was the favourites to walk away with the league that year, and absolutely humbled them the first day of the season. From that point on, it was all right. Okay, buckle in here. Something's going on. This isn't normal.
Epiphany. The epiphany of a genius.
Yes,
beginning
exactly.
of genius. Exactly, Andrea,
Yeah, especially after pre-season. Pre-season wasn't that great.
Yeah.
Then
No, it wasn't.
the Southgate changed everything.
Yeah. No, it wasn't. You're right. And match just in that time as well. Radrizzani signed Patrick Bamford to Leeds for $7 million, rising to 10, which was the highest fee we'd spent on a player since Robbie Fowler's move to the club in 2001. So it was exciting, right? You bring in Bielsa, you then spend, like I think it was Luke mentioned earlier as buzzing that we'd spent $1 million on Luke Murphy. Then all of a sudden we've got a guy, we're basically taking Borough's hot shot at the time as well. If you remember the season before, I think he scored a hat-trick against us at the Riverside. So, he was a top acquisition at the time, and Bielsa was in the door. It was really good at the time, right?
Yeah, and I think Radrizzani obviously realised that if you're going to get in a manager and pay him that much, the highest paid manager ever in Leeds United history, then you're also going to need to back him with the right players, because there's no point spending all that money on his wages if you don't give him the right players. And if that's who Bielsa wants and it's not completely breaking the bank, then give it to him and see what he can do. I just think it's the most remarkable thing about the first game or the first games and then thereafter was the fact that I'd never seen a manager come in at Leeds and improve players to the point where it was players I thought were crap and would never amount to anything and never be Premier League players. Yeah. And what he came in and did with them and the way that he improved players, like it's unbelievable. And people moan about Luke Ayling in the Premier League and Liam Cooper and all these players that came up. But when you actually remember them as the players that signed from Bristol City and was it Chesterfield Cooper came from?
Yeah, that's right.
And Dallas as well from Brentford. Like you never expected those players to be Premier League players, and Ayling was talked about as being potential for the England squad at one point. So it's unbelievable the way that he improved players, and I think that's the thing that I remember most about Bielsa, or would like to remember most, is the way he improved players, because I've never seen a manager in my lifetime at Leeds do that. And instead of just going, it was kind of breaking the mold of you just need to spend all the money to win anything, even in the Championship. It was like, no, give me these players and I will make them better rather than buying players to replace them. And that's what I love about it, because it's modern football is just money, money, money. But somebody who can come in and improve players that didn't cost very much money at all is like a wonderful thing to see. And it's so refreshing.
Yeah, no, I agree with you completely there, mate. And the mad thing is, I think it had only just started the season before to get quite silly with transfer fees in the Championship, because Leeds United, if you remember, got 11 million from Fulham for Ross McCormack there or thereabouts, I think. And at the time, it was like, wow, that's a lot of money for a player in the Championship. And now it's
too.
Yeah, it was mad. But Luke, I'll come to you. Obviously, during that time, we'd signed Bamford and maybe Barry Douglas thrown in there as well. But we did sell promising young player Ronaldo Vieira, obviously, to Sampdoria. I think 7 million at the time, and that was to help fund the Bamford transfer. I think Bielsa was on record as saying, "Look, I will turn this kid into a £15 million player if you let me, get into him, if you like." But is that where we started to realise that it was a case of we had to sell in order to buy as well? I mean, it could have been better had we kept Ronaldo Vieira as well as Phillips. It could have been quite a pair in there. But Radrizzani did say, look, we cannot buy players and never sell them. We do have to sort of speculate to accumulate. But even though at the time we were gutted with Ronaldo Vieira, you could sort of understand it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I've already seen it in the chat. A lot of people were calling for Phillips to go rather than Ronaldo Vieira at the time.
He's just won a treble, man.
yeah. And but I mean, they were slightly different players in that Calvin was utilised more of a 10 before Marcelo came in, and Ronaldo was where Calvin eventually ended up playing. So at the time, of the two promising midfielders, there was a lot of noise around why we're selling that midfielder when he's actually been arguably our most consistent midfielder over the last season or so. So I could, look, it was a mad time, and just to sort of reach back to what Josh said a moment ago, it was almost like I have to be perfectly honest, I don't know a lot about continental football. I don't know much about South American football. I don't profess to be to know overly about the leagues and management and things. So I had very little to no knowledge of Marcelo, but as soon as I heard about him coming, I'd started doing research, and I was like, I'm really excited. But it was almost like, and I don't really know how to explain it other than everything you knew about football, rip it up and just start again, because this is a new style. There's something that English football has never seen before. It was just unbelievable to watch. It just took the world by shock, and nobody could believe it. And it was the time when everybody felt it was going to be it was a horrible time because we were everyone's second team and everyone loved us, and it was wanked. You know what I mean? I hated that part of it, but yeah, no, it was in terms of the actual structure of the football club. Just to go back to your initial question, it was positive, and like as you say, bringing in. I think we brought Jack Harrison in on loan as well for the first time that season.
Yeah, it would have been.
So we brought in exciting player from City, and then Middlesbrough's top goal scorer and Alioski. Did we bring Alioski in around about then as well?
Alioski season before.
Cellino, wasn't he?
2017 from Lugano.
Yeah. So, but we were still bringing players in, and we only effectively sold for money one player in Ronaldo Vieira. So we were improving the squad at the time, and as Max said, we needed a strong squad. It goes to show how what sort of squad we needed under Bielsa moving forward. But yeah, it was a really exciting time for me, and it was really, really nice to see, everybody fall in love with football, not just football, but the club and the city again for me.
Yeah, no, I agree, mate. It was amazing. We're going to come to Rocco now. Rocco, I did mute you because I think the echo might be coming from you, pal. But
okay,
yeah, is it?
Get somebody headphones.
Yeah, get some headphones. Yeah, get some. But yeah, I'll come to you, Rocco. That's really bad, isn't it? Yeah. I don't know why that's happening. Hang on. I'm gonna mute you, Rocco. Ask the question and then I'll unmute you. All right. I don't know why that's doing it. It's only just started to do it in the last 5 or 10 minutes or so. But yeah, Rocco, I mean, obviously you've wrote books on Marcelo Bielsa, came in the door, highest paid manager in our history. And I guess this is the one, like, without Bielsa, would we have ever got Premier League? That's the question, isn't it? And you have to thank Rads for that. Obviously, they screwed it in the end, but you look at managerial appointments pre and post Bielsa, and we've not done anything with any of them managers. So you would have to say, Rocco, that this is the one. Well, maybe there's more than one Leeds United ladies, etc. We'll discuss it at the end, but this has to be down as like his golden moment, I guess, bringing in Bielsa.
Yeah, no, definitely. It was ambitious. It was very ballsy to do it. But the one thing I would say, again, I am hammering at Radrizzani tonight, but how much? I mean, yeah, brilliant appointment. But at the end of the day, you know, he's just gone to Otto. Otto's told him Bielsa, and he said, right, well, he's just basically trusted Otto. But what he has also done is he's put the whole club in the hands of Bielsa. You know, he's bowed down to him, and he's let Bielsa do everything, and which is amazing, actually. And to say that I've called him arrogant and, you know, all those personal traits that I don't like, you know, for him to do that was amazing. And, you know, to go to great lengths to please Bielsa showed that he believed in him. So yeah, I'll absolutely give him great credit for that, because that was inspired. You know, I don't think many people would hand the whole clubs over to Bielsa. You know, it was a gamble. It was a big gamble. You know, he wasn't. You know, no one really knows or knew what we were going to get from him. You know, such a effervescent character, and it's just it's impossible to really. Yeah, it was a great gamble. It was a great gamble. I have to give him it.
Yeah, for sure. I love how Rocco's just not giving him any credit whatsoever. It's brilliant. Obviously, before I come to you on Andrea, under Bielsa, we obviously get the tour to Australia. We played Man United out there. You know, that's the second season after we'd ballsed up on the playoff semi-final. Less said about that, the better. But you know, there was the Take Us Home documentary as well that we did, of course. I did say earlier, Radrizzani featured in every single episode. I think Rocco's dropped out and probably will come back in. But just to round off on the Bielsa tenure in the Championship, mate, we never fell below fifth in the table in the 1920 season. We were crowned champions after the end of the season, finishing 10 points clear of second place, West Brom. And it was one hell of a ride from start to finish in the Championship under Bielsa. I'll never forget it. I think for me, it probably will still be the greatest time I had as a Leeds United fan. I was a match-going fan at the time as well. Unfortunately, I weren't going when I was young, and it was just so chalk and cheese from what I'd seen before, you know, League One, Championship, and it was just amazing, mate. And it'll be a time that'll live forever in my memory. I think it was that good.
Just somebody in the chat was saying that Leeds couldn't defend under Bielsa, but could attack in the Championship. We could defend under Bielsa.
Talking shit.
Yeah.
In the season we actually got promoted, we only conceded 35 goals the entire season.
Yeah,
that's like.
The best form of defense is attack, though. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
We spent a lot of time in possession of the ball that season.
Yeah.
Yep.
People want to rewrite his tenure after what happened in his second season in the Premier League. And listen, go on, Andrea, talk to me about it.
Well, yeah, I was really excited when Bielsa came because, of course, he's not just a manager. He's a figure that completely transformed the club. Went back to the roots, actually, because he brought back an identity. Of course, I was worried because, of course, he had managed Argentina, he's managed Chile, he had the club, and he had a very unique style of play and a very unique training regime. And when he like the club, like Radrizzani said, actually, in a podcast here in Italy, it's not a club that chooses Bielsa, but Bielsa chooses the club. So you have to sell to him a particular project in order to get his approval, and he gives you his blessing if he is into the project. You know, the only big question mark, at the time was, of course, that English football is very different, and he had a style of football completely different to what we used to see in English football, of course, and the EFL, especially in the Championship. But yeah, when he came, I knew that he was going to transform completely the club, and we went back to to our roots. It was the togetherness, the being Leeds United, the unity, the fight, keep fighting. Back again. I hadn't lived, of course, because of my age, the O'Leary years, the Revy years, the Wilkinson years. But for me, it was like those years coming back. Because if you see, the Revy team are, of course, the epitome, of what Leeds United means. Of what being Leeds United means, of course. Togetherness, unity, dirty Leeds too. And those players were... It didn't matter the name of the back on the shirt, but the number that they had and the badge in front of the shirt, And it was like that under Bielsa, in my point of view. It was going back to the last years of the Premier League, under O'Leary, because, of course, there was a connection between O'Leary and Wilkinson that was at Gray in the academy. The players that came through the academy, of course, were brought through because of Eddie Gray. That was the connection. And I think after all these years of absence now, the Wilderness here coming back, in the new millennium, it was going back to our roots, and it transformed the club. Top patch, the redevelopment, transformed a mid-table average side, because it was an average side. It transformed the position of the players, make them believe, stick together. They run more and more and more than the other teams, by far, by a mile. And it was, like you said, Joe, the best year, the best years. The best recent years, at least at Leeds United, was it will never happen again, probably so far, until a manager with a distinct style of play and a connection transforms the club again, like he did, because he transformed the club again. And there's a mural actually, Wilkinson, of course, Don Revy and Bielsa in Leeds, so that speaks for him.
Yeah, you don't know what you've lost until it's gone. I think a lot of Leeds fans, realise that now, that maybe didn't realise it at the time. It was a beautiful time. It certainly was. Also, another prop to Radrizzani during this time. In July of 2020, Leeds United Academy was awarded Category 1 status by the Premier League due to the club's commitment to developing young players. And it was the first time in Leeds' history that the academy had reached Category 1 status. So again, that has to be a massive feather in his cap. This is not all negative. He's done some very, very good things as Andrea Radrizzani, behind the scenes. We have the Ellen Road stuff, the Leeds ladies, the academy, and bringing in Bielsa, and ultimately returning Leeds to the Premier League. And what a time it was for us fans. It's just a shame that we didn't get to experience it in the grounds. Do you know what I mean? I was lucky enough to be there for that West Brom game. But again, it just weren't the same. And then obviously our first season back where we finished 9th, none of us were in. Maybe we'll get to relive it this season, because we're going to be back in the ground when we romp the league this time. But it is what it is. But also during that time, I totally forgot about this. July 18, Radrizzani entered talks to try and buy Italian city of B-side Bari. And missed the financial deadline. Came out and said, unfortunately, the short time available to perform detailed and thorough due diligence checks forces reluctantly to abandon this idea and challenge. There was talk of QSI investment in Leeds around October 19. And then in 2020, he tried to buy Genoa, along with Matteo Manfredi at the time as well. So this is where he really starts to, I don't know, turn a little bit.
Italian club.
Yeah. And almost looking for, not a way out as such, but for me, it almost felt like, I want to get my fingers in as many pies as possible and see what I can really reap out of this. That was my opinion. During this time as well, the third kit for the season is a maroon shade of red. Personally designed by Rads as a tribute to his roots. I did not know this, Andrea, that maroon kit was a link to his roots. Do you want to just give us some more info on that?
Yeah, basically at the time, if you go and search it on Google, you can still find the article. Di Marzio, you all know, of course, who he is, one of the main Italian journalists, explained that basically that third kid in 2020-2021, the first season back in the Premier League, the maroon one was a tribute to an amateur grassroots club from the area of Milan, Lainate, actually, where Reds grew up. So this was a personal tribute he made to his local area. But of course, we don't like red. We don't like red.
Well,
Andrea.
if you remember the documentary, that away shirt had red on it. Do you remember the
black and red, not black and pink?
Yeah, and it ended up pink.
Yeah. So he had decided to do that red shirt, but of course it's not linked with anything with Leeds. Of course, in the 70s, sometimes we had the Red Sox, sometimes, but that's a different era. You know what Lucas Radebe said, not the red rose, just the white rose. So that's it, that's how we feel about red,
Didn't they try to again? They made the balls of the PR on this as well, because didn't they not come out at that time and say, well, they're looking at new markets and the Asian market reacts very well to red shaded kits. So therefore the Asian market was a massive potential market for jersey sales. If Leeds could get into it, we'd gone off and signed a Japanese player. There was clearly looks of how can we tap into this revenue down here as well, which they did this year with America. And they were saying that we've got a maroon shirt. It's not red, it's maroon, and it's connected to shades of red that are popular in Asia.
It's Cardiff-esque, It's like what they did at Cardiff. Of course, because it was on a very different level. But Azer is based in Singapore, so it all makes sense, Azer and the former company of Rads, of course, MP Silva, which he sold, of course, in 2016 to a Chinese company. It was, of course, the owner of Serie A TV rights for abroad, abroad outside of Italy, and especially in Asia. So what you said, Jerry, of course, is absolutely correct. Like most and always, probably I should say, of the times,
The brain with the MP. Sorry, mate.
No.
I'm a Dallas one in there as well. I bought it because Dallas scored, and
it's like Reggiana. It's like my local team.
There was the MP and Silva stuff was funny as well, because AC Milan had been taken over by an Asian company who he had brokered the sale, or was involved in helping AC Milan to sell to this Asian company, who then turned out to be mega broke and have no money at all. And they went into a spin for 2 years until they could start and sell the club again. Like, he caused havoc with that, didn't he?
Yeah, sure. And then he said that he had a chance to acquire AC Milan, of course, before Leeds, before Elliott, of course, the American fund that owned the club for a number of seasons before selling to Redbird, of course, the majority right now. And he didn't, because he didn't want to partner with that specific group of Chinese investors that were leading the club at the time. He wanted the governance. He wanted to own the club, and that wasn't possible. So he decided to not continue to pursue an investment in AC Milan, And MP Silva, actually, if I'm correct, after he sold that company to the Chinese owners now, and is bank that company under the Chinese owners that he sold to, is non-existent. I think he was shut down. Actually,
there's a legal case with that still going on, isn't there? I mean, he's liable for some of the stuff that he said during that takeover of AC Milan as well. Apparently, there's people involved in that takeover who are after Radrizzani for money because of what happened with that situation as well. So
and MP Silva, actually, I think MP Silva. I read it not so long ago that there's a case for the sale of the company ongoing, but of course, it's a different situation. But MP Silva shows you that they had an Azer too, because the legal headquarters are in Singapore. It shows you that they had really, really strong ties with Asia. Especially Rads was a close friend of Eric Toir, the former owner of Inter Milan, the other Milan club.
It's clear that, because obviously in July of 2021 he tries to buy Salernitana, I believe it is. Yep. Salernitana, and then obviously we know now that he's got Sampdoria, so he clearly wanted to own a club in his home, in his homeland, if you like. He probably wants the adulation in his home country to say, "Look at me, I saved this club, I did this." It's clear he wants to get his fingers there. But just back on Leeds United, obviously we finished 9th in the Premier League. For me, how could things go wrong from this position? 9th in the Premier League, amazing time. In August 2021, though, we have the controversial partnership with fan token blockchain company JUSTJOE.com, which gets absolutely battered. Did they ever name the training pitches that people could vote for? Do you remember? Because I got a free token and just binned it off. I know some used them, but they were saying you could name some of the pitches, right? Do we know if that actually ever happened?
No,
I think so.
So I
I
think didn't I get an email about Socios?
Yeah, you would have, bro.
Everyone
You
did. We all
did.
did. Still do.
They're still doing it, aren't they? It's still a thing.
It's mad. It didn't go down well, did it? Another PR disaster.
Well, there was a company involved with that as well who LEEDS helped support to get people to invest in, which turned out to be a dud company and it was a scam. But LEEDS had recommended this company to put your money into as a crypto company, and it turned out this company actually didn't exist. LEEDS withdrew from it then really quickly, but the damage had been done. I think they'd taken people for like 50 and 60 grand. They'd taken some people for like, so it wasn't small money either. So that's also another lawsuit that he's potentially dealing with as well.
That's the thing in those kind of situations. That's called due diligence.
Yeah,
They never do
he
that.
didn't do an awful lot of that though. He wouldn't have bought LEEDS if he did his due diligence. Let's be honest about it.
It's true. It's true, actually, when you consider how many Italian clubs he's tried to buy on the fly as well. Like, I just entered it too late, and like the Sampdoria thing, Andrea, that happened really quickly, right?
Yeah, there were, and if you look at that, these clubs, Bari, Genoa, Sampdoria, they were all in difficult situations. Bari, of course, went bankrupt because at the time there were 4 Italian clubs that went bankrupt in 2018. One was Reggiana, that's when I entered the club. Then was Avellino, Bari, and Cesena. So these 4 sleeping giants had to restart from Serie D, and he tried to rescue Bari, failed because he withdrew the deadline. He didn't respect the deadline, like you said. And then he tried to acquire Genoa from Preziosi. Then Preziosi sold to 777, the American fund, which owns to Hertha Berlin, for example, as a number of clubs currently. And Sampdoria too now that, of course, everybody had written them almost bankrupt right now. So it was a very difficult situation. I think they pulled out a miracle by saving Sampdoria right now, because they had over almost 200 millions of debt, and right now they're very near the definition of the composition pricing plan. So it's almost a miracle, but I think the sale of LEEDS helped in that way, because the rumored amount of sale to the 49ers is 170 millions, which in euros is around 210 million of euros. So, exit club, enter another one. Yeah. That's how it works for me.
For sure. After that 9th place finish, Max, obviously the transfer window, when we look back at it now, this is where it really started to go wrong, I guess you could say. It just wasn't enough. We only brought in Christopher Claess and Dan James, Junior Firpo during that time. January as well, we get to January, and we needed a midfielder, and we got the infamous Forshaw tweet with the love arts, if you remember that, and ultimately led to Bielsa's sacking, whether you agree or disagree with the decision. But he was sacked and did a video at the time saying something was broken inside the club. We are planning a succession for the summer. I think the ones that were broken, mate, were him and his cronies. But it really was poor, wasn't it, that second season, when you consider where we'd finished the season before?
I think it's ego again, to be honest. I think it's Bielsa can carry us through. We don't need to do anything. We don't need to give him any players, or 1 or 2. And he will do it for us, and then I'll sell the club for a load of money. There was a lot of that involved in his time here. Was like, okay, well, how little what's the bare minimum I can do to guarantee my investment? And obviously it backfired, because he got in Dan James, who Bielsa had wanted for years, but it wasn't the right move at the time. I'm sure there was other players that Bielsa would have said yes to in his team, and strengthening in other departments would have helped him massively. And the fact that Christopher Claess, obviously reserve goalkeeper, that's fine. Bring in a reserve goalkeeper all you like, but you bring in Junior Firpo, another sort of reclamation project where his career's gone down the pan, and you're kind of thinking, well, this is a gamble. And when you've actually got rid of your main left back in Alioski, who was never really a left back to start with, you need to buy proven quality as a player because this player is going to go in your first team. This is not a player that will come into the team halfway through the season. This is supposed to be your starting left back. You're buying a player to start in the team, and you're buying somebody whose career has gone completely down the pan just because he's at Barcelona and he was good at Betis. But I think it comes down to arrogance, and it's not just Radrizzani in that; it's Orta as well, and that's obviously what's cost him his job. But they've had to have had their heads together whilst picking these players and saying who they were going to pay for. So, in the Championship, I think they learnt the wrong lesson in that they can just leave Bielsa with the team that he has, and he will do brilliant things with it. But there is a point where there's like a threshold where that stops becoming possible, and that's when you come to the Premier League, when people are throwing around hundreds of millions of pounds to buy players. And I think it's ego. I think he expected that he could put in the bare minimum and that it would be all right, and he could sell then to the 49ers. And obviously it was so close in the end that season, and it cost Bielsa his job as well.
Yeah, we ultimately just delayed the inevitable. It felt like under this ownership. I remember obviously that game against Arsenal, one of Bielsa's last, and he was having to turn to Cody Drama, give him a debut against Martinelli, who absolutely tortured him for like 45 minutes. These sort of scenarios shouldn't have happened.
That bench that we had in that Arsenal game, wasn't it?
It was abysmal, wasn't it? And that also as well comes down to Bielsa's what's the word I'm looking for? A lot of other managers, what I'm saying, managers were throwing games in a sense because they couldn't get enough players fit. Not throwing games as in cheating, I'm saying they couldn't get enough players fit. And they were going, we can't play because of COVID. Bielsa was too principled to do that. You know what I mean? He was like, no, we'll play. We've got enough. Whereas I know Klopp, the likes of Klopps and all them were going, no, we're not having a bit of that. This players, trust me, that was going on. But Leeds United were like, no, we'll go. I think, Paul, I don't know if this is right. I can't remember, but he's saying McKinstry, McCarran, Archie Gray on a Premier League bench.
Archie Gray was 15 at the time.
McKinstry came on in that game.
Did he? Yeah.
He made his debut in that game, yeah.
There you go. Yeah. Rocco, you're nodding your head there. It's insane that we allowed this after a 9th place finished.
Well, I will shock you because I would defend Radrizzani in the summer window.
Wow.
I know. I mean, get on to January and it's a U-turn, but like in the summer, we'd come off such a fantastic season. We'd finished the season so strongly, last 10, 11 games. For people to say, now looking back that we should have just ripped up the team and we should have refreshed it all then. I know people say that Bielsa said that we needed to do that. I don't know if he did say that. I know Kinnear or Radrizzani said that he said that. I'm not so sure. But anyway, we spent 50 million. We'd spent 100 million the first summer. That was the strategy, was to spend heavily in the first summer and then tweak it in the second. We spent 100 million. And then in the second summer, we spent 50 when you include Harrison's fee to make his loan permanent. That is a big outlay. So, for me, that's not on Radrizzani. I think the strategy that they went with, was fine at that point. But the problem was they signed 2 absolute duds. And then we got a hell of a lot of injuries. And then in the January, when they had to put it right, they had to help Bielsa. It was criminal, that Arsenal match. And all through that summer, like the most experienced player on the bench was Somerville, and he played about 20 minutes. It's insane. And to go through January thinking that they could just, Kinnear comes out and says, none of the options that we had were any better than the youngsters that we've got, and we don't want to block their path. Well, those youngsters that he's on about now, they're all in the, they've all been in the lower leagues.
McKinstry's just been released. He's just been released, McKinstry.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
So that's farcical, and that's Orta. That's his job to come up with options, and he couldn't bring up any options better than Cody Drama, whoever else. Drama's a good one. There's other players on that bench that aren't probably even going to be professionals, like you say.
Yeah. It just, for me, it smacks of trying to do it on the cheap. I'll always remember when Jordan Stevens were getting games and stuff, Luke, when we were away at Stoke and we had no players. And yeah, Luke, he just really did try to do it on the cheap throughout, I think, and they struck gold, I guess, with Bielsa for me. I know you probably disagree because he did spend money as well, fairs.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the income and outgoing since he's been in charge, he's spent a lot more than we've received for transfer fees in terms of sort of net spend, if you like. And I don't like using that term too much because ultimately it depends on how much revenue you've got coming in and everything else. So you live within your means within the Premier League. But I'd agree there with Rocco. I felt signing Junior Firpo from Barcelona wasn't a bad signing. They signed him on the back of a good season at, was it Real Betis, if I remember rightly?
Yeah.
And he'd not got much playing time there, so I was relatively excited about that. We'd not had a natural left back for God knows how long, since Barry Douglas left, I suppose, and he was crap as well. So yeah, I was quite excited about that. Jack Harrison becoming permanent, another great signing, and then the lad that Bielsa really wanted. Who would have thought Bielsa could have got something so wrong, you know? So I was really excited about that transfer window, and I felt, look, we finished 9th. I think I even had a chat with you on here, Joe, about it. I think next season we're going to be pushing for Europe, adding 3 or 4 good players, and I felt we'd done that. So yeah, look, in terms of the actual finances and the money, look. Hindsight's wonderful. It's really easy to look back and say now we've had some absolute stinkers for probably not worth their market value. Well, quite a lot of them actually, but in hindsight, I mean, at the time, you know, even you've only got to look back at Koch and Laurenti. They were internationals at Germany and Spain when we signed them.
Yeah.
Do you know, I don't feel it's fair to blame Radrizzani. I mean, there is obviously somebody to blame, but they come as a whole package for me. I think if we're looking at this sensibly and pragmatically, then we've got to look at it not just as the Andrea years, but the team that was with him as well.
That's fair. That is fair. Go on,
and that's what cost Order his job.
Yeah. No. About this that infamous summer transfer window, you know, I disagree honestly, because for me personally, that was the start of everything going into pieces. That was the capital mistake, because we didn't strengthen. We brought in Firpo and Dan James and Clyson, but we didn't strengthen the midfield. We didn't bring another striker, and we made the same mistakes that Sheffield United had made. Sheffield United had a great season in the first season in the Premier League. They overachieved, like we did, because we overachieved because of Bielsa. Then the other teams in the next season knew our style of play, had taken the measures. Of course, we were coming out of a congested schedule because of the COVID season. We finished the promotion season in was August, start of August, mid-August, and then we started the new season in September. So I think the fatigue, the fitness came up to the team in the end. So we needed to strengthen the midfield, because even in the season when we overachieved because of Bielsa, because of our style of play, that he improved all the players and the level of play, even made Struijk broke into the team, Struijk, that season. I think we should have strengthened the midfield and the striker. And in the striker position, you know, because we had Bamford, Rodrigo, and of course Tyler Roberts. But yeah, Rodrigo had injury problems the season before. Bamford then became injured in 21-22, and Roberts, he had a fall down of performances even after he showed some good improvements in the previous season. But yeah, eventually the Premier League, you know, it gets up to you. In the end, if you don't strengthen. And in midfield, we had just Phillips as an older midfielder. Klich, of course, Klich had to play as an advanced midfielder, but we played him as a deeper, back in front of the defense. It's not his role. He has to play as an advanced midfielder because he is like a link to the wingers. Phillips, Klich, Pablo, back in the days, and the wingers and the striker. So that was the mistake, the main mistake. We just had Calvin. When Calvin became injured, like Adams this season, we blew up. We blew up, and the second mistake that season, apart from the summer transfer window, was the winter transfer window. Because at the time we knew that. We knew the position. We knew our league position. We were just above the relegation void, yeah? And we didn't invest in the market. And they tried to blame Bielsa for that. And they tried to put it on Bielsa for that. That there was the rumor going on around, Twitter, even Twitter too, that Bielsa didn't want to strengthen the thing, to reinforce the team, And you have to look at that. And sorry for the long form.
No, you bang on, man. Preach, man.
They even tried Bielsa, of course, to use him as a pure stunt. If you look at that, because they sold the bucket in the club shop. They made the sign in the stadium.
50 quid. 50 quid that was,
It was even more for mine. I had to get mine from that bloody James Rowlands who got them all flown over or whatever, his pilot. I had to go drive up to bloody Harrogate or something, the other side of fucking house end of nowhere to pick it up as well. Fucking more driving back with a big blue bucket back in the car.
There was like a pure stunt too on the figure of Bielsa, because there was the sign on the east stand, Vamos Leeds Caraco. There was the sign in the West Ham outside of the tunnel, Believe, like Ted Lasso. But Ted Lasso, it's like the opposite of Marcelo Bielsa, in my point of view. And after that, they tried to blame everything on Bielsa. The team, we know that something was broken inside the team. We know that we had to change. The players weren't following him anymore. We didn't strengthen the team. The players were fatigued because we had like half of the teams out because of injuries. Phillips, Bamford, Rodrigo, and they didn't strengthen in January. There was only the rumor about Brendan Aronson actually coming in January that didn't materialize. But apart from that, there were no links, no rumors. We were settled down with the team we had, and we barely stayed up because of certain players like Rafinha. And I never liked Jesse Marsh, so I think the succession of that was very poor. And trying to blame it all on Bielsa was poor in my point of view, because like that.
It definitely
was quoted. I mean, in sort of, I mean, I don't know who I am defending here really, if not anybody, but it was quoted as saying he will not bring anybody in who is not going to improve. Now, if we're not offering players that could have improved our squad at that time, then there's something really, really wrong.
100%,
But he did say he wouldn't bring any players in that weren't going to improve the squad, and to get them up to speed, I think he was quoted as saying takes a number of weeks and whatever else. But I completely agree. We should have strengthened.
And we
go.
No, the players that we know he was offered. We know he was offered Harry Winks. We know he was offered Van der Beek. We know he was offered others.
So it's cheaping out again.
They're all fecked. They're all fecked. This is what I'm saying. So everything that he said, he was bang on, because Harry Winks is over at bloody Nice, not getting game time over there. Barkley was mentioned a few times. I don't know where he is. I think he was at Nice, has been released.
Winks, that's Sampdoria, isn't
it? Dele Alli as well, was it?
Dele Alli. All of them, they're all broke, man. So he was right.
And I still took any of them, though.
The situation too, why the strategies changed. When we were in the 2018, 2019, we tried to bring in Dan James in the January transfer window. Then the next season we brought in great Big Kev, another great ultra masterclass. And why we were trying to bring in players in January in the championship, and we did not try to bring in players when we were in a difficult situation with half of the team out injured.
You see, Andrea, that's where I think the whole thing fell down. Not exactly at that point, but everyone has already mentioned the word, but I think it's connected to absolutely everything. And that's that the word is ego. If you look when they first came in, they got a couple of things wrong pretty quickly, and they realized very fast, this fan base won't let us do this, or else we're going to hear about things. So, let's assume the badge was a PR stunt, and they are trying to drum up interest in the club through that. You look at the backlash that gets from it, that's not going to be good for investors. So they learned their lesson from that one. They stay away from it again. They get Bielsa, and everything changes around the whole place. People aren't looking for Orta to be sacked anymore. All of a sudden, the team that was 15 for 2 years in a row, all of a sudden is playing like Premier League champions. They get close to getting promoted the first year. Second year, they walk away with it. And you think, yeah, this is great. But then I think ego creeps back in again. I think ego then steps in to think, we know what we're doing. We've got this sussed. Yeah. Sack Bielsa, bring in Marsh. And this is where I think Victor Orta and Rads decided they knew better. And just even talking tonight, if you look at the connections, Asia for the kit, money. New market for money. Qatar, money. America, new money. So they've gone after these three. Jesse for America, the kit, the red kit for Asia, and the Qatar stuff as well. And you go, all of these are connected.
Minamino for Asia as well. Yeah. We were in for Minamino for a long time.
Right.
Yeah, so you're looking at, these are all money markets. And I think that's the goal behind all of them. But I think he genuinely believes, we've got this. We've got a formula here. We'll get this guy in. We know what we're doing. Bielsa's created the setup. So we'll just bring in this guy who's relatively close to his system because everyone runs around, which showed a real lack of understanding about what Bielsa's system was actually about. Yeah. It wasn't about running and running and running. That was part of it, or the foundation level of it. They brought in a guy who all he did was run, and that was going to be the same. But again, I think that they believed this is perfect. Then you look at the players they brought in, they believed they had it right, and then that doesn't work, and then Javi doesn't work, and you realize really quickly, ego has ruined the entire thing. The entire thing fell apart because of ego, and they didn't learn their lessons from the start, and they repeated in the second half, and we were never going to let them away with it twice.
And Bielsa, I think it also proves that Bielsa was the only football expert at the club.
When you see what they've done, Max, to the club since he's left, and they've taken out everything he put in, that tells you they don't know what they're doing, and he was ahead of it.
Yeah. Ironically, the only person at the club who could have said who was the best successor to Bielsa was Bielsa. Because he was the only one who knew enough about football to say, and to be honest, I think he was thinking about going at the end of that season anyway. I think he would have said, this is who I want to be my successor. You can choose to listen or you don't have to. But this person would be perfect if he was going to leave.
But he wasn't going to leave. They were not going to renew his contract.
Well, he said it's you either improve the squad or improve me.
That was, and come here, that's the line, Max, and this is where
I agree with Joe.
This is where the whole thing about the players came in. He said you either change the players after 3 years or you change the manager. That's not him saying change me. That's him saying we will need to change this squad if we want to do this continuously going forward. 100%. The players will, and we've seen what's happened to the players.
Yeah, and ultimately, he wouldn't have entertained a Zoom conversation with the 49ers if he wanted to leave Leeds, because he'd be willing to come back if it happened. Do you know what I mean? So I think we need to, anything that came out from their side of things, take with a massive pinch of salt when it comes.
I just call it bullshit straight out. I mean,
it's bullshit.
What they said about Monk's departure, which then turned out to not be the case. Monk wanted a 3-year contract, and they wouldn't give him a 3-year contract, so Monk left and got a 3-year contract. The stuff about the badge, the stuff about what's gone on last year. You know, the things they said about Bielsa in the David Ornstein interview with The Athletic, what they've said about the conversations with Bielsa are very different to what they said Bielsa had said a couple of months earlier. And then that changed again 6 months later when they were interviewed again. The story changed again. And I keep saying this, how you can spot a liar is story changes. The lie changes gradually every single time. It's never the same. Yeah. And that's where, for me, that's what it is. They just lie to everybody consistently.
Yeah. Jer, you know, another thing that we should consider is that they knew that with the style of Bielsa as a person, he never replies publicly. He He doesn't like to speak. He doesn't like to, of course, release statements. He never released an interview after he left Leeds, you know?
No.
Until he speaks.
And he never called them out, bro. Even in the presser. He always said they were doing the best.
Well, the other thing as well is, do we take the thing that they said about having a legacy to Bielsa as bullshit as well? Do we say that them writing to Bielsa to ask to name the training ground after him? Because if he did entertain a video call with the 49ers, then he was willing to be contacted by the club.
Yes.
But they wrote to him and he never replied. And they've told us that a couple of times they've never heard from him, which doesn't seem like something he would do if he was going.
Do you not remember? Didn't they commission some sort of bucket and we all seen images of it and then it disappeared?
Well, what were the comments on Twitter at that time, Joe? They were all the comments on Twitter were, don't do this.
Yeah, it was on the back of some van going around Leeds, wasn't it?
Yeah,
that's the brass Bielsa. That's a turn Bielsa.
That's right.
No, they actually had a section in the Centenary Square. They were going to put this bucket where, do you know what the mural, not the mural, you know, on the pavilion, where they have the team squad photograph where you can sit down.
Yeah.
Apparently, was supposed to go in there as part
Someone
of that.
was commissioned to do it, bro, and there was pictures leaked on Twitter, and it got absolutely battered, and then we never seen it ever again.
No. So again, bullshit.
Yeah, the relationship between the Azer part of the group and Bielsa, in my point of view, in my opinion, broke long ago before he was sacked. That's the idea I have after all these years, reflecting on that. After what happened after he left, they tried to say we contacted to name the training ground. And Rad yesterday, when he commented about Sampdoria and replied to a Leeds fan, he said we had 3 years of beautiful football under Marcelo. Again, bringing out again Marcelo because he knows that the fans are happy when we talk about Marcelo. That's PR. In my view.
Let's move it on. The Bielsa years were beautiful. Obviously, he hires Marsh to try and save Leeds United. Again, he was up to his Twitter tricks because the day before the Brentford game, a fan tweeted him, "We go down tomorrow. I can see Rad selling up to the 49ers and ditches in the championship. I hope I'm wrong, but I can feel it." And he responded saying, "Unfortunately, you are wrong on both. After 5 years, you should know me better." He's now gone and we're in the championship. So there you go. Obviously, Marsh keeps us up. I'd say other people keep us up, but Marsh keeps us up in the history books. And Leeds United, whereas in previous windows, we had to make big signings in order to... we had to sell big players in order to sanction a sort of rebuild, if you like, under Marsh. Significant departures this time around. We saw Calvin Phillips and Rafinha for a combined total of nearly 100 million to finance our recruitment. Radrizzani on record as saying we cannot do another 3 years spending another 100 million without any transfer income. He told The Athletic at the time, financially, we had our limits. Obviously, we went down the Marsh Red Bull orientated recruitment, and that's the sort of route we went down, which ultimately was the wrong route, as we know now. I just want to gauge, folks. I'm seeing Declan Rice being touted for 100 million, right? And I understand Declan Rice is a better footballer than Calvin Phillips, and he's younger. And obviously, Bellingham's a world beater, etc. But do you look at the fees we got for them two players combined? And do you think we were shortchanged? It almost felt to me Radrizzani was that desperate to get the money up front that he was willing to take reduced transfer fees. Because I think that's mad now, looking back.
I think the players probably wanted out in some shape or form. Probably didn't push for a transfer. I know the story goes about Calvin that if he's going, he only wants to go to City, which in turn, they probably could have bid 30 million and got him. Do you know what I mean? If somebody's wanting to leave,
do we believe that now, though, bro?
There were talks about the contract renewal too.
Well, Chelsea had offered 60 for Rafinha, hadn't they? And we had accepted it, and then Rafinha was like, "I'm not going to Chelsea."
Yeah. I think a lot of that around those fees was driven by the players wanting to go, and I think clubs knew that. In terms of those fees, but yeah, absolutely, still feel we were shortchanged. I think probably you got to be looking at 60-70 for Rafa alone, realistically, based on that season, and then probably a bit less for Calvin, given his performances for England and whatnot. So yeah, shortchanged absolutely, but I almost think that because we had an idea of potentially who we were looking to bring in, or they had a ballpark figure for those transfers. We sort of knew what we'd need to cover the majority, and I think they were happy with just bringing that in to cover it.
It was cash up front. That was really short.
That's key, isn't it? Yeah,
it's cash up front. They were offered full transfer fees up front. They took the money.
I've not really seen it too often where, say, take Leicester for example. Leicester were always in the mold of selling their one or two best players and then trying to reinvest that money. But I never really saw their players or any other players from lower in the Premier League clubs only want to go to one team, because it was that Rafinha only wanted to go to Barcelona as well. So they kind of both penned us into a point where it's like, well, we're going to have to take just the maximum we can get from Man City and from Barcelona, because they're the only clubs that these guys want to go to.
Look at Brighton, though, what they did with Ben White. Ben White only wanted to go to Arsenal, and they said they held out for a figure. They're doing the same with Caicedo. We probably could have played hardball a little more.
Yeah.
I think
they
they
wanted that cash up front, man. You give us the cash up front, you can have him. That's what it was, son.
Am I right in saying, Andrea, that Deco is now involved with Barcelona on a full-time basis?
Yeah, I think he's going to be an advisor.
Yeah,
I read something in the recent week too, Joe, about Deco.
And he's Rafinha's agent, and he was guiding that transfer, and now he has a job with Barcelona.
He probably is gonna, because Matteo Alemany is going to leave, and Deco is rumored to be one of the candidates of for the sporting director of football position. Yeah.
Definitely not a conflict of interest at all involving transfer of players that he controls to that club.
Yeah. It's mad. It's mad.
He's going to be the sporting director. Yeah, can confirm.
Yeah. So during the transfer window, obviously we have some success. Well, maybe Tyler Adams was the one success. I think this is more so Orta's fault for me personally. I don't level too much at Radrizzani. Obviously, you could maybe level at the fact he was willing to get the money up front, which then maybe scuppered us getting a bigger deal.
I think they were, just before we go on to this, I think they were worried trying to get the money in up front because they knew that there'd be quite a lot of turnover of players and getting them all in. And I think they were panicked that they wouldn't have enough time to get all the players in that they wanted. Because think about how early they got Brendan Aronson in, it was literally like a day after the window opened, wasn't
it? Yeah. I think, but we got all that money up front, but none of our transfers were paid for up front. No. We're still paying it.
Yeah. So where's the money gone? Run the club. That's the gap.
Yeah. That's where the issue is, isn't it? You know,
that was the problem with copying the Leicester model. Leicester never sold more than one of their top players every season. We sold two in one go.
Yeah.
And then they ran out of players to sell.
Yeah, massively. Yeah, true. Obviously, this season or in the transfer window, again, we became a bit of a laughing stock with the Bamba Dieng situation with Radrizzani taking to Twitter. He said, I think he was responding to our good friend Ollie Ward, said, let's welcome Bamba Dieng. Will continue to work on Gakpo. Gakpo now plays for Liverpool. He said, now it's time to focus on the pitch and support our new project and the great job Jesse and the staff are doing. Then obviously Bamba Dieng doesn't come off and he responds again to saying it's part of the madness of deadline day. We have been screwed up. It happens even to the best ones. We have done a great market, planned and executed our targets at a very early stage. We've got to keep going. We get battered by 4-1 as well by Manchester City. If you remember, I vaguely remember Jesse. Yeah, fist pumping the 4-1 loss.
It was only 4.
Yeah, like a scene from Ted Lasso.
Exactly.
Not because it's American.
Yeah. And then Alexi Lalas tweets out to say, Leeds United aren't supposed to beat Man City, so this result doesn't really matter. That's the reality of the EPL hierarchy. If you remember, we actually beat City at the Etihad, Stuart Dallas. And of course, Andrea Radrizzani liked that tweet as well, sort of agreeing with Alexi Lalas. So it just got from bad to worse, and this PR magnate that is Radrizzani had a really, really rough season, really, didn't he? In front of it, Luke.
Sorry, mate. Yeah, I was listening.
You definitely were. You'd switched off, hadn't you?
No, I won't, mate. I'm absolutely fucking knackered, though.
Sorry, mate.
When they ask you a question at the back of the classroom, Luke, when you know teachers know you're not paying
attention. Do you know what I was thinking about? I've got an exam on Tuesday, and I was thinking, fuck, I need to revise for that. But yeah, no, look, it just got out of control. And look, I think if I was to summarize, sort of the whole era as such, I would be quietly thankful because I did see some of the, in fact, probably the most exciting football I've ever seen Leeds United play under his tenure. However, there were enough mistakes, and the time to go was well overdue. Without him, would we have ever seen Bielsa's Leeds? You know, without that, you know, that ambition, I suppose, and that commercial outlook that we said before, and that belief that actually they could go out and get anybody, and that ego to say we could bring Bielsa to a championship Leeds. Would we have ever seen Marcelo Bielsa manage Leeds United? I doubt it. And for me, it is. I mean, I still remember the European years in the early 2000s and things, and that football doesn't even compare with watching Marcelo Bielsa's Leeds. The football was incredible to watch, and for that I'll be forever thankful to all of them. To be honest, to all of them, because but they've obviously made enough mistakes to sort of stain that legacy, I think, and the time was well overdue for them to leave.
I think that's a lovely little rounded off there by Luke. We'll go around and get everyone's thoughts, because I've put a poll in the chat as well. Radrizzani's era successful, yes or no? I want to know your thoughts, just based on everything we've discussed. Obviously, before we do go around, he did say at the start of this season that he expected Leeds to finish between 10th and 14th. Impossible for Leeds United to go down. And then by the afternoon of the 4-1 defeat at Bournemouth, the final reign of Grazia, he slid in to the DMs of Connor from One Leeds, or vice versa, whichever way you look at it, and sent a message to Connor saying, "I am broken. I am responsible for this shit. It is unacceptable. You all don't deserve it." And look, that's, I guess, rounding off his tenure. Obviously, he did try siphon off Ellen Road in there as well, but I want to try forget about that, because whenever I think about that, I just think, right, he's a bastard. It is what it is, but we're trying to look at it, his whole time. Rocco, rounding off similarly to how Luke did, success for you or not? What's your roundup? Is that the right word I'm using? Yeah.
Summary.
Yeah, summary. That's the word I was looking for.
I mean, yeah, you've got to say, you know, these 5 years, 6 years now, is it? You know, they've been incredible, you know, but, you know, I just put that down to Bielsa, and, you know, my opinion, yeah, that's what it is. No one talks about the chairman under, you know, when Don Revie was there. No one talks about Leslie Silver when you talk about Howard Wilkinson. You know, well done, Rads. You got a great manager in, but, you know, Bielsa did the magic. Bielsa's the one that Bielsa brought so much more than Radrizzani ever thought that he might. I truly believe that. Don't know for sure, but yeah, what I say is that Radrizzani came. He was lucky to be the man that took us to the Premier League. He got us there. We were there under him, so fair play. But when we got there under him, it was an absolute disaster, and we went down. He completely messed it up. He had the world at his hands, and he let it slip through due to incompetence and arrogance, in my opinion. And we're back where we were. Yes, we've got parachute payments, but at the same time, we're starting completely from scratch, and who knows what the next few years are going to bring. So, yeah, for me, he's completely ruined his legacy. You know, the BLC is, and they're incredible, and he was around for that. But I'm not giving him credit, because he's completely and utterly screwed it up, and I blame him for that more than I blame anyone else.
Love that. Andrea Russo, my friend, thoughts? Come on, give us your summary.
Well, it's like games of two halves, you know. It's like, to use a metaphor, like the Star Wars saga, you know, when the first movies and the final movies are bad. The movies in the middle are good, actually, very good. You can watch them again all over and over again, you know, because you like them. They're very, very good. But if you look in football terms, you know, in footballing terms, I think it's really a game of two halves, you know, because the first season was bad. The season under Bielsa, they were great, brilliant, great memories. We were united as a community, as a club. Everybody was, you know, thinking and pushing toward the same direction. The squad, the manager, and the club. Then, in the turning point in the Radrizzani era was, in my view, like I said, the summer of 2021. when we didn't strengthen the team at the time, then January 2022, because at the time, something broke, like he said, but like something broke in terms of the relationship between all the parts of the club, the squad, the manager, and the ownership, the board. So if you look at that specific point, they had a golden ship. They had the perfection of a club. Everybody was edging towards the same direction. Then with certain moves, it all falling into pieces. It was like a tiger of a paper tiger. We were a tiger, but at the time, we turned out to be a tiger made of paper. Because when Bielsa was sacked, and the decision coming in the following months, going down, and regressing every time. So if I have to look at at his legacy, especially during the last recent weeks with the Alejandro situation that you talked about, Joe, the change, the shift, in the way the club communicates towards the community and the city. Because at the time, at the beginning, I think the communication was great on social media too. Then we regressed to even on that side, even on the marketing side. Even someone referred to, and I think it was Luke Williamson, one Leeds United fan I was talking to recently on Twitter, the pure stunt of the shirt that they used to send out to celebrities, like Tottenham 2. They sent a shirt to Tottenham 2, not connected to Leeds. Try to grow the brand in a specific way that doesn't grow the brand. And yeah, after January 2022, February 2022, I think we regressed dramatically, and the club didn't move forward together. Everybody was, it was like area, different areas of the club, and everybody was edging toward its direction, not the club collective direction. So if I had to look collectively at his era, in the end, unfortunately, it's a bad. I have a bad feeling. I don't judge it positively after what happened with Bielsa, because they had a golden opportunity and they didn't capitalize on that.
Yeah, love that. I think that's fair. Joe? Thoughts?
Oh, I thought it was more coming there, Joe. Sorry, mate.
People are falling asleep, aren't they? I've kept you for nearly 2 hours. I do apologise.
I was expecting more to that. I thought you were going to go, Jer.
No, I just, summarise. I'm sorry, folks. If you need to get off, you can.
No, that's a different kind of stream, Joe. No one wants to watch that. I'm going to steal and adapt Andrea's analogy there slightly. If this wasn't a movie but was a book, and you read the first chapter of the book under Radrizzani and the last line of the last chapter, it would read the same. Leeds United are in the Championship. So for me, that's a no, it's not a successful period of time, because in a short space of time, and in football in terms, 5 years is a short space of time, it's even short, 3 is even shorter again. We are, fine, possibly in a better financial situation than we thought, but then time will tell on that. But we are still in the Championship, and that's the problem. Yeah. You can say we got another generation of Leeds fans living a dream for a small amount of time, which is followed ultimately by a drop into the Championship, and that needs to stop. And we need to have owners in charge who are actually want to put a stable foundation in place for this club to move forward properly. So for me, 49ers are in there at the moment. I'm sure they'll make plenty of mistakes. I hope they're just new mistakes and not ones we've already seen Rads make. They may get it right, they may get it wrong. For me, Rad's got a lot of things right. I will be always very grateful for him throwing a bag of money at Bielsa. I think what Rocco said is right. They lucked out on that one. The stars all aligned. But then as the saying goes, if you throw enough shit at a wall, something's going to stick. And that bit stuck. They got one thing that ultimately helped them achieve a lot of other things because of that. So outside of that, glad it's over. We can move on.
Yeah. No, I think I love that book analogy. That was brilliant. Top that, Max.
Sounds like a shit book, mind you.
Shut your face. It's only got 2 pages in it.
He's certainly the best manager we've had since 2000. Chairman we've had since 2018. But that was a joke. You can all laugh now.
All right. It's too bad. It's too late, isn't it?
It's whether you compare him to the success of other clubs' owners and chairman, or whether you compare him to our chairman of the last however many years. because being down in the Championship and League One and not ever really looking like we're going to get close to pushing to going up, really. We had a few flirts with it, with playoffs and stuff, but before Radrizzani came in, it just felt like we were never going to be back in the Premier League, and it was more likely that we would be relegated than we would be back to League One again, than we would be promoted to the Premier League. And so I think it's easy with the benefit of hindsight to say that he was bad, because it's like it's recency bias. That's what I'm looking for. It's recency bias. So everybody's thinking that he's horrendous because it's all just happened. But when you compare it to the likes of Ken Bates and our previous owners over the last couple of years, I think you've got to say it's been a success overall, because even though we've been relegated, we've got the tools more than we've ever had before to go back up again because of the parachute payments. And I think we get 45 million this year. And then because we stayed up for more than 1 year, we get 2 more years of parachute payments if we don't go back up. So if you think about it, if you frame it like this, when he came in, we didn't have any chance really of going back up to the Premier League before Bielsa. But now he's left us, and he's left us in a slightly better position because we have money behind us and we're set up well enough to go back up. We've got the infrastructure in place. That's the only positive you can take. It's not like he's come in, taken us down, and we've failed 3 times to get back up and the parachute payments have gone. Football's all about money, and now we have some of that, enough to go back up. And so it was, if the scale's like this, failure and success, it's just successful.
Yeah.
It's just a net positive.
Max, the only thing I'd say just about, because it's a dangerous analogy, the comparing him to previous owners that we've had versus previous owners all up is like comparing a current abusive partner to previous abusive partners, but somebody who is slightly less abusive than the ones that were before, and saying it's okay. Do you know what I mean? It's still not a great situation, and stuff still shouldn't have happened that did happen. And, you know, under better ownership, maybe that stuff doesn't happen at all.
Yeah. I think just for my 2 penneth, I started to agree with Luke because he started, but as it's gone round and I listened to Rocco and I listened to Joe and to Andrea, I was like, nah, yeah, they're right. Like, for me as a fan, if I could bottle how I felt during that Bielsa time, it would, honestly, I don't think I'll ever get it. That's why I cried on bloody YouTube, man, because I just knew, man, it was just, for me, the period in my life going to games week in, week out, and just seeing the football, getting involved into YouTube, just everything. My life was in such a good place at the time as well. And yeah, it's mad, really. He had a bit of a profound effect on me, did that man. So the fact that they screwed him in the end, sort of like, I'll never forgive him for that, I don't think. I think had we have just continued, if we'd have backed him, honestly, it's mad and it's really upsetting. So for that, I still hold ill feeling to the way it was released as well. I'll never forget getting on that bus back to Staunton. It was literally 2 minutes walk from my seat to the bus, and it was already in the Athletic. And I thought, you bastard. I got annoyed at Phil for it at the time, but he's just doing a job. He was just fed information. Of course, they were going to report it, but yeah. So for that, I just think, yeah, you screwed up the job. We're coming up to 2 hours. Let's finish it up. I do apologise. Isaac Leeds says, hi, guys, and thank you for all the content. Rads and Co, we're going all out signing Riola. How come we're not going after him anymore? I think we'll be a quality manager at Leeds. Any thoughts? Just on that, Isaac, I know you asked it earlier on. I'm convinced it's an auto signing, although there has been a lot of chat of Iriola, hasn't there, over the past 24 hours because he's been linked, etc. So we'll have to wait and see. Big up Vic says, happy Father's Day, everyone. Hope you've all had a lovely day. Keep up the great content, guys, for all your channels, and enjoy your evening. So thank you for that, Vic, as well. I want to thank all the guests tonight. All the links to their socials or channels or podcasts are in the description. I want to thank them all. Go on, Andrea.
No, I just wanted to say one thing because we're all here. Just wanted to extend my condolences again to the family of Gordon McQueen, because he was great little legend. Before we go to bed, of course, tonight after we finish the stream.
Yeah. No, thank you very much for that, Andrea. Thank you for reminding me of that. Listen, everyone that stuck around, I know I told you it'd be long. It's been a mammoth stream, but it's been one that I've really, really enjoyed. These will all want to go to bed. Yous will probably have had enough chatting about Leeds. They're probably going to get it in their necks from their missuses and all that jazz. I can see Rocco there thinking, yeah, you're right, Joe, I'm going to get it in the neck. But please do smash a like, follow them. Hopefully from Monday onwards, I'm expecting it to be busy because hopefully we'll have a new manager soon, and then it's all just going to go mental. So you'll be seeing a lot of me. I hope anyway. Thanks.